Hi, I was on a study at USC about, they had a big grant from PCORI to take a look at the community health centers and patients, and the relationship to inviting extra help into the home. And it didn't work out real well. The patients really resisted, and a lot. So from another perspective, from the patient's perspective, they have pride. There's a sense that burden thing is not minor at all. A sense that there's a more tenuous relationship between life and death, and independence. The giving up of it kind of signals you're losing some of your ability to take care of yourself and your independence. And they found alternative ways to try to get people in to get to talk to patients about it, like spiritual people, to say, to reframe it and get somebody in their garden and to talk about their gardening and kind of defuse the whole idea of what needing help. But I don't think it's a minor thing either way. And I think that there may be some patient education we need to do also about what's going on. And no doubt, hospice sets off bells and whistles big time. And in terms of, am I dying? You're giving me hospice means I'm dying.
Yeah.
And it's really stuck. I mean, whether it's true or not, I mean, that's what goes on. It seems to go on. And so the messaging is really important, because you're right. I think people will flourish more and thrive more, but I think language is critical.
Amen, Andrea. Thank you. Nice to hear your voice.
Hi.
And that's these things it's complicated, and so part of it is you're right on. I'm with you in everything you're describing here, and this is also why we all, if we, with our extra energy, and this is where I like the word from advocacy tipping into activism. If we bring up these issues into sort of daily life, into something more essential, then I think, it's also an indictment of society and how we think of ourselves. This idea of independence and autonomy, that we Americans are extra fetishized around that notion. But the problem is, I said earlier, independence doesn't exist. There's no such thing as someone who needs no one. It is a normal part of life, and even a glorious part of life, of how much we need one another. And there is no shame, and I, as a disabled person, there's no shame around needing help. That is the most natural, normal thing ever. And yet we live in a society that still implicitly, explicitly sort of denounces that as a lesser state. So part of what I hear your comments is we have some work at the structural level, the level of language, the level of society, the level of policy. So amen, yes, yes, yes. And then meanwhile, down in the trench, how do we find a way? How do we pry this stuff, this kind of care, into each other's lives? It's just grunt work down here. We just need to best we can do right now is acknowledge these forces at play and do our best to leave with them. I'll say one last thing on this point. We should get to we got some more hands up, but sometimes with a family, this happens a lot, like pride or whatever it is can kind of be gumming things up. And that person, the bottom line is they just need to get miserable enough to accept help. Like they have to, whatever is getting in the way of allowing help in, in some level, they got to scrape the barrel a little bit more and see, like, okay, worse than my pride issue is just the fact that I can't get to the bathroom back, and let help in. Things got to get bad enough to let help in, and that's just sometimes the way it goes. Actually, my last point here is this is also why there's some thrill around telemedicine, and my ability now, one's ability to go into someone's home through their computer screen. It's not the same thing. It's got its huge limitations. But one thing that's nice, it's a way to kind of break the plane with someone around their privacy and their home base. They can control the aperture a little bit, but it's a way to begin to get into people's homes. Okay, so anyway, those are some thoughts, but let's move on to some more questions here, guys.